Warm, dimly lit room. Samuel, 73, sits in a worn armchair by a crackling fireplace. A photo album rests on his lap. Soft piano music plays. He looks into the camera with a gentle smile, eyes glistening with memory. His voice is soft and weathered, as if each word carries decades of dust and sunlight. You know, children, age is a funny thing. It creeps up on you like frost on a window pane, slow and silent, until one morning you wake up and your reflection surprises you, not because it's old, but because you still feel like that boy who climbed trees and scraped his knees chasing frogs in the creek. Yet here you are, bones aching, hands trembling like autumn leaves, wondering where the years went, how they slipped through your fingers like sand. And you sit by the fire, tracing the lines on your palms, as if they're a map to all the roads you've walked, but the choices you've made, the love you've held and lost. And you realize life waits sometimes, waits until you're old and tired and raw, to teach you the lesson you've been running from, the one that cracks you open like a seed, finally splitting in the dark, letting the light pour in. Let me tell you about the year I turned 73. The year I learned that pride isn't a virtue, it's a prison, and that the bravest thing a man can do is to say, I need you. Back then, I was a man of calloused hands and sawdust dreams, a carpenter who measured his worth by what he could build. Tables, chairs, cribs for grandchildren, coffins for friends. And I wore my self-reliance like armor, convinced that needing help was weakness, that love was something you earned by being useful, by never faltering, never failing, never letting the cracks show. My Evelyn, God rest her soul, she'd shake her head at me, her laughter like wind chimes on a porch in summer, saying, Sam, you'd build a house alone in a hurricane just to prove you could. And I'd grumble, better than bothering folks. But she'd press her palm to my cheek, her touch softer than the wood I carved, and whisper, You're not a burden. Let people love you. But I didn't listen, not really. Not until she was gone, and the house we'd filled with laughter and arguments and the smell of her rosemary bread turned into a museum of ghosts. Every creak of the floorboards a memory, every empty chair a monument to loneliness. And I'd sit in my workshop sanding wood until my fingers bled, filling the silence with the roar of the saw, pretending I wasn't drowning, pretending I didn't see the worry in my daughter Lila's eyes when she'd visit. Her voice careful as she'd say, Pa, come live with us, the kids miss you. And I'd snap, I'm fine, clinging to my independence like a life raft, not realizing it was an anchor, until the day my heart rebelled, a fist of pain slamming into my chest as I collapsed in that workshop, the smell of pine and varnish sharp in my nostrils, the world tilting as I gasped for air, and in that blur of panic, the paramedics' voices, the fluorescent glare of the hospital, the beeping machines like a metronome counting down the seconds, I heard Evelyn's voice again, clear as daylight. You're not a burden, Sam. And I wept, not from the pain, but from the shame of realizing I'd spent a lifetime building walls instead of bridges, that I'd let my pride starve my heart. And there, in that sterile room, my daughter gripping my hand, her tears falling on my papery skin, I finally whispered, I'm scared, Lila. And she kissed my forehead and said, Me too, Pa. Let us be scared together. And those words, simple as they were, felt like a key turning in a rusted lock. It wasn't easy moving into her home, relearning how to exist in a world where I wasn't the strong one, the fixer, the rock. How strange it was to sit at the kitchen table, sipping coffee while chaos swirled around me. Grandchildren spilling cereal, dogs barking, phones ringing, life messy and loud and alive. And at first, I'd retreat to the porch, carving wood to escape the noise, until my grandson Jake, all of 6 years old, crawled onto my lap one afternoon, his hands sticky from popsicles, and asked, "Grandpa, can you teach me?" And I showed him how to hold the chisel, his tiny fingers overlapping mine. And as we shaped a block of oak into a horse, he said, "You're really good at this. But why do you do it alone?" And I had no answer, just a lump in my throat, because he was right. And that night, I dreamt of Evelyn, her hair silver as moonlight, saying, "Love isn't a debt, Sam. It's a gift." And when I woke, I wandered into the kitchen where Lila was scrubbing dishes, her shoulders tense from work and worry. And I said, "Let me help." And she stared at me, eyes wide, before handing me a towel. And as we stood side by side, drying plates in silence, I felt a crack in my armor widen, light spilling in. Weeks turned to months, and I began to see the beauty in depending on others. How my granddaughter, Mia, would read to me when my eyes grew tired, her voice tripping over big words. How the neighbor, Mrs. Ruiz, brought tamales every Sunday, insisting I try her new recipes. How even my old friend Henry, who I'd once competed with over who could fix a roof fastest, now sat with me on the porch, both of us wrapped in blankets, sharing stories of our wives, and admitting we'd been fools to think grief was a solo journey. And one afternoon, as I placed flowers on Evelyn's grave, Leela and the kids beside me, Jake holding my hand, I realized I wasn't alone anymore, that the love I'd pushed away for years had been waiting patiently, like seeds in winter, and all I had to do was let the thaw come. So here I am now, children, in this old chair with this old heart, finally understanding that strength isn't in standing alone. It's in leaning, in letting others see your cracks, your fears, your need, because that's where the light gets in. That's where love grows. And if I could go back, I'd tell my younger self, put down the armor, let them help you, let them love you. The world won't end if you're weak. It'll begin. But since I can't, I'll tell you, don't wait until you're 73. Don't waste years clinging to pride like it's a trophy. Hold hands, ask for help, cry when you need to, build birdhouses with grandchildren, let someone else wash the dishes. And when love offers its hand, take it. It's not a ladder to climb alone, but a bridge, and we're all just walking each other home. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. See you in the next video.